Now is the time.
Forever? Tangent. Hold.
Halt.
Hashtag always MGM.
You are approaching the unloading area.
Calm down. AK haters.
But what if it could? Behold the majesty of the Sistine ceiling.
For the kids.
A salute to all theme parks, but mostly Walt Disney World.
Ha! What a cute ending.
Aloha and
Don't Dillo it.
This is Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank, and we are here at DillosDizResort.com on a Monday evening prior to Theme Park Thursday. I have audio back.
Very exciting. Don't jinx it though.
I know, don't jinx it. It is a Monday. It is March the 4th. This Theme Park Thursday audio will drop on 5, 6. That would be March 7th. Carry the 1 minus, or however the kids do it these days. I have a second grade math. I don't get it. Don't get it. Higher learning is what they say. I don't know. I have an MFA in dramaturgy.
Oh Lord, there it is. Yeah, you got to break down those for one math problem, a whole page. That's what you need.
Speaking of this second grader, it was a big weekend over the last 3 days here as she did her first run of show ever, the run of a production of Newsies, as it were, which fits right into all the things that we do here. And it was glorious.
It was amazing.
Pigtails the Newsie.
Fantastic.
Jen was crying yesterday during the show.
Sure was.
On a Sunday matinee.
We did a little Dillo dinner, hashtag Dillo dinners. That should be a thing. We did a Dillo dinner afterwards, and I told Frank and Mrs. Dillo that if this girl ever has this, solo on stage, where I will be a disaster for the entire probably show, not just the performance, because every time she did anything on stage yesterday, again, she smiled, she said a line, she sang along with everyone, she did a hand movement, whatever. I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. I love it so much. I'm so happy for her. She looks so adorable up there. Just a mess.
She and get tap dancing. Yeah. Tap dancing she did.
Tap dancing, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They leaned very, I don't know if because it was easier. It's very funny when you're in after school theater programs. And back in the mid-2000s, I taught a lot of after school theater programs. And, it's very hard sometimes. Here, her group is second grade through fifth grade. And then they're doing a similar production, 6th grade to 9th grade. And when you have the 2nd to 5th graders, they are, I don't know. It's they leaned a little bit into hey, get your papers, the papes. They were very into the dead end kids, where I have heard that on the flip side of the older kids, I heard them say, wow, they really had good accents. We're not doing those accents. Why? And I was like, oh, are you guys trying to get out of the New York accents in order to get ready for the rest of your life? But the kids, in order to kind of have them lean into learning how to be a character and things like that, they were like, hey, we got no rights, all that kind of with a nice clear picture.
Oh my goodness, adorable. Don't make me cry again.
So I got a kick out of that as someone who, when he moved to Orlando and went to the University of Central Florida to and went to theater class, they were like, dude, your New York accent, it's got to go. And I was like, what? And they were like, say, drop a quarter in the water, drop a quarter in the water, quarter in the water, drop a quarter in the water.
No, quarter in the water. At the mall with some coffee.
So true. But that was a big weekend here with Newsies. And we don't really, I feel like we don't talk about it too much, the Newsies. But, it's right in that it came out in 1992. It's a glorious year.
Come on. Yeah.
The film came, and I think that, obviously has a cult following. And obviously the Broadway production expanded that even further. And It's interesting still. I feel like that in a theme park way, they still haven't kind of leaned into the idea that, Newsies is a Disney thing. It's Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
It's such good music. I
Yeah.
mean, come on. Yeah, it is interesting. Is that what spurred? Because I saw you on the socials, on the Twitter X and the X
Uh-huh.
Twitter put up the. Is there anything that's not Disney that you wish it was Disney? Do you think this started from that or something
Oh
else?
no, it was.
Oh,
I watched the Mets last week in Port St.
oh,
Lucie, and as soon
yeah.
as I see spring training baseball, I'm like,
Oh
why am
yeah.
I not in Florida? Why
Right.
am I
Yeah.
not
Sure.
here?
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
I mean, obviously, this has been a part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
when they had, and I'm sure it's because it didn't do well at the box office in
Mm-hmm.
1992, but to not really lean into a Newsies vibe on the backlot of Disney
Yes.
MGM Studios in spring and summer of 1992 with a little medley here and there.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. From when something hits like Frozen and they're like scrambling to do something to like all last year we talked about, well, should they do more in advance of Indiana Jones 5?
Mm-hmm.
And Jen's usual answer is like they're not going to do anything until they learned their lesson from Dick Tracy,
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And really, that, I mean, if you think about it, Dick Tracy was so big in Disney MGM Studios during the summer of 1990, and it didn't pay off. I
Yeah.
think the way they had hoped, the way Batman did, let's say the year before, that they were like, all right, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But with Newsies, I always thought that was like a big miss, that they had that whole New York backlot,
Yeah.
and they could have just leaned into that for the whole springtime into summer,
Yeah.
probably with a little musical.
Yeah.
Number there.
Like a little Citizens of Hollywood. Come on out. They do a little Santa Fe and they go back in. And then they come out and then they, do a little carrying the banner down the whole thing. Would have
Yeah.
been glorious.
Yeah, it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And by the way, they probably could still do that if they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it on Main Street USA for all I.
It's not the same as a New York street.
No, I know. We won't reveal this at this point, but also over the weekend at the Dillo dinner, there was a big reveal regarding Walt Disney World that will.
We're not going to reveal it.
No, well, I mean, you want to talk about it, but I'm just going to say that has nothing to do with the Fine Frank for 50. Just so
it doesn't. So yeah, that's that.
Do you want to talk about it quickly?
We can.
I mean. No, you can. I didn't know if we were going to talk about it. It just starts coming out of my mouth sometimes. I start talking. I'm like, well, now I'm saying it. Here we are.
Well, and I think, let's go through some Dillo history for just a quick second.
Mm-hmm.
We Dillo things, right? And to the point, Mama Dillo said something about Dilloing at this dinner as well. And I was like, wow, it's getting around. Mama Dillo is even saying it. But there's not realistic reasons behind our Dilloing. That's just stuff in our head. And I think what happened last year, you could argue that's why we Dillo things, because we were going to go on a cruise last August. Papa Dillo had some health concerns that lasted months. And obviously we then rescheduled that for this upcoming August. But we'll say the 9-year-old and that Dillo DNA he has, we did mention it like 2 weeks ago. We said something about the Disney cruise and he said, what did he say? You mean hopefully going on the Disney cruise? And I'm like, ah, great. There. So that is why we Dillo things. But we're trying our best not to Dillo and to be looking forward to this. And Papa Dillo especially is counting down. We only got 6 months. It's only like 5 months away. He's counting down. So Papa Dillo last year had decided that he wanted me to book the hotel, but not at the Dolphin. See how much this is? Which is like his favorite game, right? He plays the game we all play, which is pretend vacations. And so, see how much this is. See how much this is. And so last year it was decided that we would be staying at the boardwalk. But nobody will know until we drive up to it. And in my head, I was like, I don't know how that's going to work. Because with the app nowadays, we can't really pull this off. Everyone's going to know. And I remember last year even because as he was in the hospital, he was still like, all right, so we'll go. And then you didn't tell nobody, right? So we'll go. And when we drive up, and I was like, I don't know if that's going to work out because if we want to get reservations, why? So you just do it. You just do it on the app, right? And nobody else has to do it. I'm like, but I mean, if Frankie, if he wants to put the reservation on his app and he wants to look up dining reservation, all right, well, we'll figure it out, and all that. So this year, as we are leading up to it again, do me a favor, look up the hotel rates again, compare it. Okay, so then I do it, and then he's like, all right, let me think about it. I'm like, you got time. I don't remember when it was when I first did it. I'm like, you got time. And then he had me do it again. And it was one of the times we were all together, and I just sort of flash him my phone with the numbers, and I just do one of those. All right, so do it. So I got one of those. So booked 3 rooms at the boardwalk for this upcoming August, and not saying anything once again. So then he had moved at one point at dinner last night next to me. And then I was like, when are you telling everyone about this? Because he was talking about flights. You look up flights yet? Well, I was like, when are you telling? Not until we drive up to it. I was like, okay. Minutes after that, you are like, oh no, he mentions Ohana. And you're like, well, we're not in that window, right? With Dolphin, we can't be in the 60-day window. Then we'll go into the third and all that. And I was like, yeah, see here, it's going to start getting tricky. And so then I go over to Dillo, and I'm like, listen. And I have we're in an Italian restaurant. I sit next to Dillo, arms crossed, like we're having a meeting. Lean back a little bit. I go, listen, there's no way around that. You can't do nothing about that. I don't think there is. Everything's going to be connected. All right, so what should I do? I'm like, we're all here. Why don't you just tell them now? You think I should tell them now? Yeah, look, we're all together. Just do it. He's like, all right, I'll tell him. So I then go back to my spot, which I'm kind of diagonal across the table from Dillo. And he's sitting there and he's trying to find his way in as everyone's talking. And I see him and I'm like, so then I get my phone out and I'm trying to secretly record because I don't know when he's actually going to say something. And then, he does it very Dillo. So listen, due to technology things I don't understand.
which all right, well, go ahead, finish it. I don't want to say anything else yet. Go ahead.
There's no way around this. And the lead up is what are you even talking about right now? So we're not going to stay at the Dolphin when we go. And everyone's like, okay, we're going to stay at the boardwalk. Now, listen, I checked the video. You can't hear it, and I don't have everybody in view, so it probably won't be seen. But let me tell you the amount of dilloing that happened with that announcement and the reactions where everyone was like, okay. And for those of you listening to the audio, it was just sort of like a head nod all around. And we were like, and he was like, it's already booked. I'm like, oh, okay, it's already booked. That's nice, all this kind of stuff. So then we were explaining to Mrs. Dillo because Mrs. Dillo wasn't aware of the boardwalk and what that was, which, fail on your part. You need to be doing better education of Disney resorts at home. I want PowerPoints. I want all the things.
There's no reason why she doesn't know what this is. This is her not listening to me for years is what it is. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So he says that, and so we're all like, yep, there it is. And then we tell the kids. The kids are like, but we want to stay at the Dolphin because they're Dillo children and we've done something once, therefore we have to do it to all the time. And then the 9-year-old backs it up with, or at least the Polynesian. All right, okay. We gotta go back soon because now the last trip they've done has been at the Polynesian. We're going back to All-Star Kids. We gotta go back because we gotta
walk it all the way back.
Reel you in. So we are very excited because we will be staying at the boardwalk for a couple of nights leading up to our cruise. Your point of view and your thoughts and feelings on it all.
It's I definitely dilloed it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't dillo it because Not I think this year, not until I'm there do I think it's happening. So
Exactly.
that's the first part. The listen, the cost is I can't. I can't.
Uh-huh.
We were looking because we believe it or not, resort guests at DelosDisResort.com that we do are trying to explore continually the find Frank for 50 options.
Yes.
And so we're looking at everything all the time and just like pricing out pop. And like, again, we don't want people to spend that much money to come see us. Like,
Yeah.
we don't
No,
want,
right.
so so we were on there all last week, like, and so you see the other prices, and I'm just like, oh, these deluxe. I think I said it outright. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
these deluxe prices are just, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so that was fresh in my mind
Yeah.
at that point, and that's for one room, not 3 rooms. 3 rooms.
Correct. 3 rooms, which I will also say, we got technically DVC studio rooms because they were cheaper than a regular room. I don't understand that. Now, granted, I do think a studio, which I started thinking about the bed situation, but I think it's fine for the kids. But I do believe that a studio is in fact a regular room, and they went, where can we squeeze in a kitchenette? So I don't think, it's not like we're staying in a 2-bedroom anything or whatever. I'm
Right.
still thankful, and it's amazing, don't get me wrong. But it's just funny when I think about like, oh, this is a studio. Well, I think this is a regular room with the kitchenette, which is fantastic. But this allegedly will be your first time staying at Boardwalk?
No, we say this every
No.
time. It is
Oh,
not my.
I'm
You keep
so
forgetting.
confused.
You think I have stayed at the boardwalk more than I have.
Oh, just more, not
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
there is
forget
one
that.
trip I can definitely unequivocally say I stayed at the boardwalk, which I would
Right.
pinpoint as the summer of 2001.
Almost the mid 2000s, but not quite.
The 2000s. And then, yeah, so I think you stayed on both sides more than I did there.
Yeah.
But
Lewis is saying you get a couch in the studio. Yeah, so because when I was going back to the room today just to look at it, I did see there's like a pull-out couch, but I think there's also under the TV a little fold-down bed with like Dumbo as the background. I think that might be a situation too. But I was like, oh, I didn't even think about like that there's not 2 deluxe resort beds. But there are, there's still options. It's fine. Or 2 beds in some of the resorts, but pretty sure Boardwalk gets a couch. Normal rooms, not so much. Interesting.
I see a couple of comments back here in the resort chat that questioning that Mrs. Dillo listening to the podcast, whether she
No.
listens to it. No way. Never. I don't think
Never.
she listens to any podcast, to be fair. So
Right.
why should we be
Yes.
included in that?
When will you show her the top 5 Dillo's do's?
Eventually,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, maybe. She
And she'll be like, when did you do this? And what? When did?
How did this
why?"
happen? What? Where was I? What
It's
happened?
like one of those things like, okay, I'm going to go out to Long Island in the morning. I'll be back in a couple hours.
Bye. Bring back something French. Yeah.
So all that to say, this story of Dilloing is not one of the 32 stories that we will be having this year in hashtag Dillo's Madness here at DillosDisResort.com, which is where we're recording this episode, as previously mentioned. We are focusing in at the resort on hashtag Dillo's Madness this year. We will be sharing 32 of our favorite stories spanning 5 decades. And we'll have anyone who wants to participate determine what their favorite or what they think is the best Dillo story is that we have in our arsenal. I mean, we might have to fold up the podcast when that's all over, but it's like, well, we got nothing left. We shared everything in 1 month.
Those are our stories.
Or more, and it's over.
Except for the mid 2000s.
That's right. We that's true. Eventually, when we're desperate, if we start talking about stories in the mid 2000s, you know that we're wrapping things up.
Coming to an end.
But 32 stories. Actually, after this podcast we're recording, we will be doing something separately here at the resort that is related to hashtag Dillo's Madness and sharing that along the way. It was suggested in our one channel Discord, which paying guests of DillosDizResort.com can get $1 a month to get into our $1 one channel Discord. It should expand, it should be longer than it is. And I was like, we didn't put a timeline on it. We said the first round starts next week. The last year's never ended. We never got there. So who can say when this one will end?
It will go on forever.
And I will say it didn't end last year due to the aforementioned Papa Dillo illness.
Right.
I almost said Papa Dillness.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's go with that. Now, whenever one of us is unable to record due to a sickness, we'll say, "Oh, Frank is out this week with a dillness."
So. With a dillness, due to dillness, Frank will not be appearing this week. So we'll see. Maybe we'll spread this out. We actually, to say in all seriousness, kind of want this to be an opportunity for everyone who didn't know us before to get to know us. I think a lot of people, even here at the resort, there's probably stories we shared in those first 3 to 6 months when we were on the Improviser's Guide podcast that we haven't really told outright here. And so that will be something to look forward to here over the next few weeks or months. Who knows how long it could take.
Yes.
Jen, do you want to mention how you can participate in hashtag Dillo's Madness at DillosDizResort.com if you're not a paying guest of the resort?
Yes, because you still can. You don't have to be a paying guest. You can click the fancy join for free button over at DillosDizResort.com, and you will be able to see all of Dillo's madness. And as our paying guests seed the Dillo's madness, whatever that means. People, you know what? By the way, just sidetrack here. People giving me the business over on the X Twitter today, Dr. Jacqueline and Justin, because I still don't understand seeds. I will never understand seeds. That's the beauty of this, nor am I willing to learn. But anyway, they will be seeding and we will be sharing stories, and you'll see more over the next month or forever as a free member of the DillosDizResort.com or free guest, which, sometimes when you're in Disney, you can resort hop. You're not staying there, but you're just hopping around the resort, checking things out. And that's what the free members do. So that's that.
So that's what's happening over at DillosDizResort.com this year for hashtag Dillo's Madness. It's a one-stop shop, as it were, for all your hashtag Dillo's Madness. We haven't incorporated the foghorn into any of this yet. People asking, is it still the Dillo's Diz my favorite thing about Disney ever this year? March Madness Mania Pool. Horn. I'm not really entirely sure of that yet, but we'll figure out how to incorporate the foghorn. The foghorn was heard. Not heard, but referenced this week on the Monday Morning Monorail podcast. So shout out for foghorn in March.
I know Lewis will miss it if we don't bring it back. So
well, nobody likes change. So that is why we're all here. How far are we in? 23 minutes in.
Yeah.
If it was Regis and Kathy Lee, we'd be going to the first break after our trivia contest.
Time to bring out the guest.
So this week, a couple of things, right? So we have hashtag Dillo's Madness with a bunch of stories. So we were obviously trying to figure out which stories we're going to pick. We still haven't, as of this recording, we have not released the final 9 contenders because Frank thought he did the first 8 and he only released 7. That's fine. The final 9 contenders have yet to be released as of this recording, but that's coming up. But also, what happened within that is some things got left on the editing room floor, a couple of which were, debating like, oh, there were some celebrity encounters. What should we talk about? Where should we lean? We put a couple of celebrity interactions on the March Madness hashtag Dillo's Madness pool, but some we left out. this led into, oh, well, maybe that should be the topic this week. It should be, let's talk about our celebrity encounters in the parks over the years, or maybe just in life. Who knows where we'll get to, because in 2 weeks, 2 weeks? Oh, no, 1 week, 1 week from Saturday.
Oh, what?
Oh,
What is time?
will be our third visit to 90s Con up in Hartford, Connecticut. And that will be we have some meet and greets lined up, so we will be looking forward to that, and we can talk about that along the way here. But we figured today on the podcast, because as guests of Walt Disney World, as cast members or operating participants at Walt Disney World, and just in general, overall, we have had some of those celebrity encounters. And I don't know. Wait, I feel like the one we should start with is Pat Morita, because he got left on the editing room floor of our hashtag Dillo's Madness. And what's so far, Pat Morita, of course, Mr. Miyagi, but Arnold on Happy Days too, if you're really old like me. And you're like, oh, I only watched the Al episodes of Happy Days when Al took over and Arnold had left it with whatever. It's neither here nor there. But Mr. Miyagi, of course, legendary, iconic movie character, film character, the Karate Kid, the whole thing. He liked Walt Disney World.
Yes, he did. He sure did.
And who knew? And this is the time of the early days of Disney MGM Studios, where regularly they had the celebrities come by. Maybe it was 2 to 3 days. Maybe it was a couple of celebrities every week. And they do like the handprint ceremony. They do the little, you sit on top of the convertible. The early day, what cavalcades used to be, where it was just a celebrity on top of a convertible driving up Hollywood Boulevard. That's all you needed.
So good. With their picture hanging in Beaches and Cream, probably.
Right? All the framed pictures in the old school version of Beaches and Cream before you got all this Mickey print and negative reviews on Twitter all the time. Let me tell you something. Back in the old days of Beaches and Cream, the way it was is a skinny little shop, not this sleek ranch looking style restaurant.
Sleek.
That people didn't complain about Beaches and Cream, but now, because of how it looks and how it feels when you go inside, all I see is negativity about Beaches and Cream. Stop it. The hamburgers are still good.
They're still good. Have a milkshake. Call it a day. Just go in for a cheeseburger. Don't get the fancy things either. Get your cheeseburger. Get your milkshake. That's it.
Don't do a patty melt.
No.
Don't even get onion rings, for crying out loud.
No.
Just get some fries.
Yeah.
And don't get an alcoholic ice cream beverage.
No.
Stop it.
Also, if you do, that's okay. If that's what you like, that's okay.
Just get a cheeseburger. And if you're really fancy, you order it as a single.
Yes.
Because you've been around as long as we have.
That's right.
You order a single cheeseburger. You don't get the double. Don't get a double cheeseburger.
No.
Don't call it an Angus beef something or other.
No. Not a bacon burger without the bacon. Stop it.
Just give me a single cheeseburger with French fries and a chocolate milkshake, and I swear you dig back there and you find a plastic straw and you put it in the milkshake.
Those straws with that milkshake. It almost ruins the whole thing.
I approve of us trying to take care of the environment.
Of course.
Service announcement. Please
100%.
do what you have to do do your part. But you leave the plastic straw in the chocolate milkshake.
Remove it from everything else in the park. That's okay. That will do a significant world of good to our carbon footprint, but not the milkshakes.
Oh, man. Fancy with the carbon footprint lingo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. T-shirt Beaches and Cream edition. Everybody calm down. Have a milkshake.
That's right.
Plastic straw on that milkshake picture on that T-shirt. I'll tell you that much.
It's gotta have. You can't with that paper straw.
And I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I get very But
It's
the straw is
soggy.
abnormal. It's not even a real straw. What do you do? What are you giving
Like,
me?
you're not even getting the proper quantity through. Like, yeah, it requires you need only a certain amount of a chocolate milkshake. Like, when it's a peaches and cream chocolate milkshake, it just sip. But when you got
Yeah.
the paper straw,
No.
it's like
Blech.
I don't. It's like a tube. That
The
paper straw.
worst. It is the worst.
It's like a piece. What is it called? The pipe. What's it called? The the PVC pipe. You might as well have had that in your
It's like a
chocolate
pool
milkshake.
noodle. It's a pool noodle in there.
You're taking in too much chocolate milkshake with anything other than a traditional soda shop plastic straw.
Frank is getting angry. The New York is coming out. He said soda. That's how serious
Soda.
we are about this.
Drop a quarter in the water.
It's the worst.
What are we talking about?
I
Pat
don't
Morita
know.
stayed at the beach
Pat
club. That was my
Morita.
point.
Poor Pat Morita. Got a whole milkshake tangent.
So Pat Morita, he stayed at the beach club
He did. He was there. We were there at the same time.
the same week.
Yep.
And who was it that crossed paths with Pat Morita?
We had two encounters
That's
with
right.
Pat Morita.
Okay.
One inside the park and one outside the park. And one was in the beach club. And I believe that was only you and Mama Dillo.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
I think that's correct.
And do you want to walk us through
You saw
that?
Miyagi?
Probably does he even know? I think he did know.
He did know. He knows his 80s
Yeah.
sports or side to sports movies.
Right.
of the
Yeah,
80s.
for sure. He would know. That's right. And he enjoyed the celebrity aspect of the beach club studios connection and feeling like we were staying in the same places.
It's an interesting thing with Papa Dillo. Because clearly he did. He liked being close to fame. What's that
Yeah.
about? What do you think that is?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. There is something to that though. It just might be just might be the Italian in him. I don't know.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like he likes
Yeah.
the
You think
gravitas.
you saying he went back and told a bunch of people at the bowling alley that he met Mr. Miyagi? What do you...
Probably. He likes to have the stories to tell.
He does like his stories. I mean, and well, it's for another time. But I mean, he has encountered a lot of celebrities in his own
He
right.
had. Oh
Yeah.
man, God, if we could just get him on to tell those stories and just let him go, be like, go, just
be
tell all the
famous.
stories. Amazing.
This
Jeffers
James Earl
has
Jones story, we would have the most hits ever on that.
all the stories. Some stories would have to be slightly edited, and we would have to remind him he's on a podcast. But otherwise, he has so many stories to tell. Jeffers is asking a question: were you wearing your shoes when you met Mr. Miyagi? Were you in a wheelchair? No spoilers, Jeffers. You have to wait till the end of this story for that.
So, Mr. Miyagi, stop calling him Mr. Miyagi. So, Pat Morita was staying at the beach club. So, yeah, I saw him, I think, by the elevator in the resort there. If Jeffers remembers, when we were with Lexi waiting for our Uber and Nate Hardy talking to the Uber driver, we were in the lobby for a little while, so a little off to the side there by the gift shop. That's where we saw Pat Morita. And then, so he was there for the whole week, and he did his little Q&A at the studios, and he did the motorcade / cavalcade, whatever. It was a motorcade, I guess, technically. It's just like a one car thing. But then we just like we would have one more encounter with him. So I will turn it over to Jen to this portion of the story.
Yeah, and it does circle back, Jeffers, to your question. So on the trip where Jen had a toenail incident by the beach club pool,
which may or may not is in hashtag Dillo's Madness. Yeah,
exactly. Check out Dillo's Madness for more. I did end up in a wheelchair the rest of that trip, and that was the time we went to Universal as well. This was also during a time at the parks where wheelchairs went to the front of the line automatically, and also a time where you had, I mean, I think they still have areas sectioned off with fireworks, although I'm not 100% sure on that.
Mhm.
For wheelchair
Accessibility.
accessibility. Yes.
Mhm.
And so we were put into that section at hashtag alwaysmgm for the fireworks viewing. So I was in the wheelchair and sitting right next to us because apparently it's also the VIP area. Is Pat Morita watching fireworks with us? So we were like, well, now we're best friends because we're on the elevator and now we're here. I don't think we talked to him, but in our minds, there's all these connections. Like, obviously, we are going to be besties because there's all these things happening, interactions.
Oh, Jeffers again is asking questions that we can't spoil things on because this is a hashtag Dillo's Madness story. But Jeffers is asking, did Pat Morita sign the envelope? No,
No, you know what? Okay, here's the thing. The envelope happened after the trip, as did where the toenail ended up. So it didn't happen. Not everything happened while in Disney. So we had to wait. So the envelope wasn't needed until we got home. So unfortunately, he did not sign it.
Lewis is back in the. I don't know. He might be in and out of the chat here today. But Pat Morita is correct.
Yes.
Drop a quarter in the water, please. Quarter.
Pat Morita.
Pat Morita.
Probably
Is like Pat LaFrida, like the steaks you get at City Field, the steak sandwiches? Is that Pat LaFrida? Right?
No, Louis, Mama Dillo does not carry envelopes just in case of toenail incidents. Although I don't know why she didn't after that point. Because how were we supposed to know if that was ever to happen again?
So yeah, Pat Morita sitting next to us for a presentation of Sorcery in the Sky. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Vincent Price. The night sky will light up with Sorcery in the Sky in just a couple of minutes. And then after that, after Vincent Price, of course, then it was Michael Marzella, who is a legend on the Renaissance Festival circuit, was a Citizens of Hollywood character for years. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Sorcery in the Sky. And of course, on the episode of Full House, when Michelle rubs the lamp and is granted the wish for the day.
Yes.
It was a small house, but a full house.
Yes. All right, Jeff, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do, because we're going to side tangent because we can pull from this episode for our story regarding the toenail. I'm going to do a brief version of the toenail story.
The teaser of the type of stories that you get at hashtag Dillo's Madness.
That's right. So, one visit while staying at the beach club, we were hanging out at Stormalong Bay. Problem number one, we weren't at the quiet pool. So already, you know, it was not going to work out well. And as I was leaving the pool, I was carrying my New Kids on the Block sandals instead of wearing them, which was the wrong choice. And I was going into what are now automatic doors-ish.
Right.
But
then they're accessible doors. You got to press the thing and you can open it.
But then you had to, you pulled it open, and the bottom edge of the door went under my big toenail. And as I pulled the door back, the toenail kind of got pulled back with it, which was very painful. I don't even, like, what version of little me was so strong to just pull this door and do that much damage to a toe, by the way? I don't know, but I think it just hit it in the right spot. And so then I walked back with a blood trail back to Mama and Papa Dillo at the pool to be like, this just happened. Which then, signaled the lifeguards. And then I went and sat in front of the beach club with Papa Dillo and waited for like kind of a mini ambulance, basically, to come pick me up to take me to. I would love to know where I went now that I have lived there since then, but I don't know. I went somewhere off of 192, obviously, probably the hospital over there or the urgent care.
It was more like 535. I feel like you might have been over on 535.
Yeah. I know that we had gone, when you come out of the beach club, if you make a right instead of a left, and so you kind of go down underneath Epcot a little bit there. And I remember going, and I remember going under there going, ooh, where are we going? Where am I going? Am I backstage? Because I don't think we had gone that way at that point that much, but now all the time, the only way we like to go. But we went and I got my toe wrapped up, and they were like, don't go in around a lot of people because you don't want your toe to like get stepped on. You don't want we're like, we're in the theme parks. We're not from
Like,
here. What?
right.
And so they were like, maybe you want to get a wheelchair. So we got the wheelchair for the rest of the trip. That leads us to when we got home, the same toenail fell off. That whole
Right.
because it was just sort of laying on my toe until it died a slow, painful death, and then it fell off. And then Mama Dillo, probably by the direction of Papa Dillo, I would say that was an idea he had.
Well, save that.
You
Save
gotta
that.
save it. You gotta save it. That was a whole thing. That we put it in a. By the way, Mom and Papa Dillo may have been around the age I am now when this happened, maybe a little younger. That's great. So they put it in an envelope marked Jen's toenail, 1992. And
1991, 1992,
1991?
1991.
Maybe 91. Yeah, that's right. And so Jeffers was asking, did we have Pat Morita sign that envelope? But that envelope did not happen until we got home. He also asked, what did we bring the toenail home in? So it was still attached to me and just wrapped up when I went home.
The only other thing I would have probably have guessed, Jeffers, if I didn't realize it was still on her foot when she traveled home, was that I would have said it was probably in a beach club glass with a beach club washcloth in it, wrapped in a beach club towel, and put in the suitcase.
Facts. That's where it would have been for sure. Jeffers says, Frank, this scream, where did it fall on the Tron scale? You know what? I don't think I screamed. I was probably crying. Yeah. And I don't know where Frank was during this toenail incident.
I remember, like arriving later to it. But yeah, Jen's cry when she was younger was more of a, if I really had to.
Kind of sounds like when I get sick as well. No memory of doctors I have gone to there either. Assume there was no scream. Trevor saying he assumed it was ripped off in the moment, right? Like you would with it, saved with a glass of milk, like you would with a tooth. Do you save like teeth you lose with a glass of milk, Jeffers?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. And Lewis is saying weird to think the age of our parents were at sometimes like this. Yep. Yeah. So that's the toenail story, which are stories you'll hear. You'll hear similar stories on Dillo's Madness.
Yeah. So. I was just looking up because I was like, oh, well, if this just turns out to be a Pat Morita episode, like, is it his birthday or did he pass away at this time? And no, he was born June 28th, 1932, but he did pass away in the mid 2000s.
Oh, see, what a time. Jeffers saying with the back to the teeth, if they're knocked out and you want to put them back in, is that a thing? I may have to fact check to put them in.
Well, that's a great question because I knocked out my tooth in October of 1983.
Yeah.
I don't, well, no, because now it's just going to get gross. I also didn't lose my tooth. The tooth was flipped upside down and the impact flipped the tooth upside down and then went back into the same spot it came out of. So it was still technically in my mouth.
One day, we might have to have some teeth stories for the resort, and we can talk about all of our teeth trauma.
Now, it's 44 minutes into this podcast, and all we did was talk about Pat Morita.
And my toenail, again, Nate, where is Nate? I hear him screaming, going, she told it again.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think here. Like, is there like one more?
I mean, well, okay.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead. No, you go.
I mean, how many are we leaving it as a category for Dillo's Madness?
Not a whole category. No, I put in the interventions meeting in there as a story. I put in there is a genie category that I haven't decided which genie tale to tell in the story. But and Super Soap Weekend is in there since that was a separate thing.
I mean, I can tell the story, the other one I mentioned, because it's a quick thing. The other interventions sighting I had.
Oh, yeah. Tell the story of that one.
Yeah. Okay. So another interventions sighting that I encountered was, first of all, we have talked previously but I don't know if anyone remembers, or if you're new to the podcast, what a welcome to this podcast. But I worked at Innoventions in the mid 2000s, and I often would take naps in the closet of a break room we all did. We'd rotate out and we'd put the chairs together and we'd curl up with our little MP3 players and take a nap. So one day I was back there napping, and fellow coworkers came back and was like, Jen, you have to come out. You have to come out. Vanilla Ice is in the exhibit. And I was like, shut up. He's not here. What are you talking about? And so I woke up and I came out into the exhibit, and it was indeed Vanilla Ice and his family. And so I played it cool. Jen, without a name tag, would have probably been like, hi, Vanilla Ice. Could I have a picture? Jen, with a name tag, would never do such a thing. So we just spied on Vanilla Ice from like behind. He hung out in the exhibit for like a little bit, though, which was kind of crazy. But I think his kids at the time were playing, and we had like we didn't have a playgrounds, but we had what looked like a playground area with flowers, and on the flowers were touch screens, which were the grossest things to clean. And so I think they were hanging out in that area for a while, but it was very exciting to see Vanilla Ice in an IBM exhibit, and he was right in front of me, so that was very fun. Yeah.
I was sometimes, especially if it's a laundry morning here on a weekday, I will put on 90210 reruns on Paramount Plus.
Sure.
And so and David Silver is going through his hip hop career.
Oh yeah.
And everyone references Vanilla Ice then, as a result of it. And I was like, what a time. What a time, the early 90s, and Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer, and
for sure,
and the like.
Yes.
That's a good one though. I'm trying to think, I think in the Soundstage restaurant, speaking of Genie Tales, there was a couple, like the earliest celebrity sightings that I had were Emmitt Smith at the time, who was like huge with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Cowboys just kept winning Super Bowls in the 90s. Not since then, but sorry, Lewis. But that was like a big deal at the time, was to like meet Emmitt Smith, when you're working very closely with the Genie. And then Steven Tyler is the other one, which I think at that point they had just like broken ground on Rock and Roller Coaster. Rock and Roller Coaster was before it was that building, was the actual cast member building at #AlwaysMGM before they moved it. I guess closer to behind Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular by the parking lot on that side. Probably where Lexi was spying on the Galactic Star Cruiser shuttle that day. But where Rock and Roller Coaster is, like, they had to knock down the cast member entry point and locker room area for Rock and Roller Coaster. So those are like my two earliest ones, but one that I hadn't told before, and maybe we can try to close things out on this one, is I've told stories about the Genie encountering Macho Man Randy Savage and Lex Luger and the Steiner brothers, and one of the Steiner brothers had a little physical altercation with the Genie, and had Scott Steiner retell that story via a cameo 3 years back. Probably I always dig that up around WrestleMania time anyway, so we'll probably replay that again soon. And then there was a couple of other wrestling based encounters in that 93 to 96 period, I'm gonna shift it a little more. It's probably 94 to 96, first as guests and then as a cast member, where they it was very much like, do not engage with the professional wrestlers backstage at the studios. Please don't ever do it. But you saw them all the time. They were in the commissary. They were just around. But one day, now you have to picture this as probably where the queue for Toy Story Land is now, since Toy Story Mania is in the sound stages. And to walk backstage, you could walk from where you enter Toy Story Land. So let's say you're entering Toy Story Land and you make that left at the Rodeo Roundup and you go that way. You used to just basically make that left to where the tram was to go down that road and behind the sound stages. And so for whatever reason, I was walking that way. I guess maybe secretly I was like, oh, maybe I'll run into wrestlers. I don't know. And as I was walking, and I guess I would say now to where, right, because there's like that little break between Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge, right? So the restroom is on the left across from Aliens Swirling Saucers. And then there's kind of like this little break, like you can see where like the backstage area is before you hit Galaxy's Edge. There was a pathway that way too, which would be like basically like New York Street. And so I might have been breaking over there that day for some reason. And by the way, I could sleep on a couch like nobody's business in the smallest of trailer break rooms, anything for 23 minutes.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
7 times a day. And so as I'm walking, there are 4 very large men arguing with each other. And there's other much smaller men surrounding the large men. And one of them turns to me and goes, hey, you, come over here and help us. And I'm like, what's happening right now? And they're about to get into like a real physical altercation amongst the 4 of them because something must have went wrong in the ring. And I'm like, let me I'm trying to help look like I'm helping. Like, all right, let's try to back it up a little bit. And I just saw a reason. One of the tag teams was Fire and Ice. I think they were called Fire and Ice, and Ice Train. He just passed away recently. But the Fire of Fire and Ice, I think it was Fire and Ice, was Scott Flash Norton, and he was a big dude that just looked like he was killing you every time he was in the ring. So the idea of like, and you could tell he was like the most intense of the 4 guys in the moment. I was like, I should not be here. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to get fired. I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get hurt. So quickly they resolved their issues. I need to go back because I think I've tried to in the past search for that match, and maybe it just never made it to air.
Yeah.
On because they did so many episodes during the week that they would film. They were doing it in between like their Monday. They would film Monday at the front of the park in the summer of 1996, and then they would film the studio stuff the rest of the week. But yeah, trying to break up 4 300-pound dudes is not really my thing.
Yeah.
So that was
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Good times. Yeah.
Oh no, Jeffers, they were not arguing over plastic straws in their chocolate milkshakes. Just so.
Or were they? No, it's too early.
Could be.
Too early. Yeah. Ryan, welcome in. I see Jeffers is catching you up on some of the topics you missed. And just by reviewing those topics, what is this episode? But it's a good one. It is a classic Dillo episode, I think, is what this is. Hilarious.
There was a lot that happened. So we will wrap things up now here on Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. But we will be continuing a lot of extra bonus stuff over at DillosDizResort.com as hashtag Dillo's Madness does pick up some Steam, not streaming, nope. Some Steam here through the month of March. Next week, we plan. Because I think we were going to do a 90s Con preview. We never really got there today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what the celebrity encounters were going to
That's right. That's what it was based on. Because there was going to be
you even said that in the beginning of this. Whew.
So guess what, everyone? We'll talk a little more about 90s Con next week on Theme Park Thursday. But it also is leading up to the 25th anniversary of Test Track next weekend. I think it's the 17th is the official day, which is also a lovely cast member story over the years that we can share, since Test Track and the opening of Test Track takes up a lot of my cast member time. That was constantly in progress while I was a cast member. So the 25th anniversary of Test Track next week. And to say, though not officially a plan, I have written out a lot of dates that are associated with potential topics through the rest of 2024. Like I know like the 30th anniversary of Tower of Terror this summer. I really want to do that one. So things to look forward to there, and more along the way. Make sure you like and subscribe and do all the things in all the places with the YouTube and the TikTok and the reels on the Instas and the join for free at DillosDizResort.com. And we're going to do a little more recording over at the resort, actually, right after we're done here. So until next time, she's Jen, and I'm Frank. Bye-bye.
Deuces. The Dillo's Diz podcast is hosted by Frank Cardillo and Jen Cardillo-Snyder. Music produced by Matt Harvey. Logos and video production courtesy of Snidillo Studios. Dillo's Diz Resort is our Patreon with tiers starting as low as $1 per month. You can visit DillosDizResort.com to learn more. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X Twitter, and Facebook at Dillo's Diz. Check us out on YouTube by visiting youtube.com/DillosDiz. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're there. We also have merch available on TeePublic and Etsy. For all this and more, visit our one-stop shop, DillosDiz.com. Dillo's Diz Podcast 2024.